Hello,
And welcome to
finish big.
where we are listening our way through many big finishes, all of them,
You go and say it.
such as Earth Search, Plague
Yeah,
7,
Search.
Doctor Who. But
We're doing so much fucking marketing for Earth Search. If anyone ain't buying that bloody thing, we're wasting our time.
and you are joining us, continuing our listen through the Doctor Who Unbound series.
Why'd you say it like that?
I was saying it with dramatic effect.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Unbound.
More drama than in some of these stories today, I'll tell you.
And we are again joined by our special guest. His knowledge of Doctor Who spin-off is as sharp as the decal on David Burton's new car. It's Dylan Reese.
Hello. I'm very happy to be back to talk about the other end of the Unbound series, the much maligned end, shall we say.
Don't talk about the other end after where we ended up in the first episode. Jeez, a storm of bloody anals.
Well, the first three we did, we got through those. We quite like those.
We had a lovely comment, right? And when the video went out on YouTube, the fella went, "Oh, you started with the best three. What a shame the last three are a load of shit." I was like, "Oh God, what have we let ourselves in for?" Can I ask a question quickly before we go any further? What on earth was? I didn't understand that joke about the decal on that person's car.
It was very niche.
It was as.
Do you not even know? Do you not know who David Burton is? You can leave now. You can leave.
Was he the fella who was cast as the Doctor but wasn't?
No, he was the guy who said he was cast as the Doctor and filmed 2 episodes as pilots, directed by Paul Bernard, with his companions Ace and Diamond. But no one else remembers anything about this, including he only started talking about it after Paul Bernard died. And there's no evidence anywhere else, but he can't really remember much about it.
Oh, and now I see why it's in our Unbound episode. I get the joke. I finally get it. So I thought it was so sophisticated. It's like Nicholas Briggs's comedy in Exile.
And he had a free car out of it. He was driving around in a free Proton that said the new Doctor Who on the side. He lied and got a free car, basically.
It sounds like the ultimate Unbound adventure. The Doctor in Proton with his companion Diamond.
There's an interview with him on one of the DVDs. I can't remember.
Yeah, there is.
Is there? I'll skip me by.
They did those like special editions, and they put loads of extra VAM on some of the earlier releases, and it was a documentary about the attempts to bring the show back before it came back, and he's in that in a little bit. But he is my number one wanted guest on Too Hot for TV. Number 2 being John Leakley, the guy who wrote the Leakley Bible for the TV movie.
Well, you finish Big Hose. Start canvassing your social media to get in touch with those people, please. And pass on Dylan's regards and say he's ready to do the interview.
Right, well, shall I remind everyone what we're talking about today?
You better hide, yeah.
So the 3 releases are He Jests at Scars,
By the time of Jesus' birth, you could be flying to Mars and back.
Deadline,
Doctor Who, you utter bastard!
and Exile.
You've let Sainsbury's down, you've let me down, you've let the whole universe down.
This is definitely a very mixed 3 compared to the previous. They're very experimental, aren't they?
I think it's a wise thing to do, and I think it's one of the few ranges that's allowed to try things and not necessarily get it right, the other being the Lost Stories. It's like, if you're going to do something completely bizarre with Doctor Who, then the Unbound range is the place to do it. And perhaps the fact that we don't do these anymore, I don't necessarily mourn the loss of getting X person as the Doctor, but doing something this experimental that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't is something that Big Finish should definitely be doing more, in my opinion.
I felt that these sort of bizarre stabs at Unbound, this tail end of the season, that it was sort of more impressive concepts than the first. You know, what if the Doctor never left Gallifrey? It's actually quite boring. What if the Valiard won at the end of Trial of a Time Lord is amazing? What if Arabella Ware was the Doctor as an old drunk working at Sainsbury's? I mean, that's just enticing, isn't it?
Is it not relatable content, Joe?
Oh, we haven't even started yet.
Okay, well, let's start with the first one. Let's get into this. So, He Jests at Scars was released in August 2003. This stars Michael Jaston returning to play the Valeyard, and Bonnie Langford returning as Mel. This was written by Gary Russell. I remember really liking this back when this first came out, and I haven't heard it for a long, long time. I think Michael Jaston and Bonnie Langford are brilliant actors. I don't think anybody else could have dealt with a script like this.
Well, it's basically Pip and Jane Baker dialogue throughout, isn't it? So yeah, they're well honed in this sort of this level of Shakespeare Doctor Who.
Yeah, they bring it to life. It was a bit more uneventful and a bit more static than I remember, though. I felt like it was a lot of, and they're brilliant, and it's great to hear Michael Jason playing the Valeyard, but I felt like a lot of it was him just standing, explaining stuff that's going on. A bit like he does in Trial of a Time Bomb. He's just standing there talking. He's just doing that. There's lots happening, but in my mind, they're just standing there, sort of. The Valeyard's explaining to Ellie what's going on, and then Mel is just standing, talking to the Time Lords or talking to whoever, explaining what's going on. I just felt like it wasn't as exciting as I remember it being.
You know how audio drama works,
right? I know, but
mostly people just standing there explaining what's going on.
In my mind, they're just literally standing there. There wasn't a lot of action.
I'm a big Jodie Whittaker fan, so I'm used to people just standing there explaining things again.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
Actually, it did feel a bit Chibnall, this, didn't it? All that continuity in there, lots of explanation.
You just needed Sagan's score to lift it up, and like a few massive set pieces, and we would have been there.
Dylan, I'm dying to know what you thought of this one.
Well, when this first came out, I remember being thoroughly disappointed by it, and I would have been 20-odd, I think we said last time, and just been like, the Valeyard as the Doctor, surely this is going to be fantastic, and it wasn't. This time, I loved it. I had a riot of a time listening to it. I put it on expecting to only listen to half of it, and I got through all of it. It's largely down to the two leads, though, as Mark was saying. The chemistry between them is just fantastic. Michael Jaston's on fine form. Anything with Bonnie Langford as Mel in whatever guise she takes just works. And I just like this alternative sort of dark Doctor that's also... He's conniving, but also he's a bit shit at being the Doctor and indeed being the Master. So he's not quite the villain you would expect him to be when the Valeyard takes over, because there's still a little bit of Doctor in there, so he can't quite be the arch manipulator. So I loved it. I'm a big fan.
I've got to say, in complete contrast to you, when I first heard this years ago, I also absolutely hated it, and it's the only review on Doctor Who Reviews I ever gave 0 out of 10 to. I hated it that much, and we watched it this time on a train journey up to London. And what was wrong with me back in the day? I had a fucking blast listening to it this time. The thing I loved about it was, if you're going to do this, the Valeyard is going to basically fuck around with Doctor Who continuity, yeah? Just do it, jump in head first and do it. So, of course, we're going to the planet Exile, and we're going to use the Doomsday weapon to destroy Gallifrey. And, of course, we're going to go to the Silurians and wake them up early. And I really loved how one consequence led to another consequence, led to him basically being more and more shit until you get to that superb Sapphire and Steel ending where the two of them are stuck like flies trapped in amber, aren't they? They can't even move or anything. They're just stuck as the universe is sort of frozen around them. I thought this was so fun.
I felt like it was a bit more of a serious Curse of Fatal Death in places.
Yeah, I can see that.
But after a while, it seemed a little bit repetitive for me. And I was just waiting for something else to happen. I don't know, it's strange how I've changed my mind on it the other way.
Yeah, because he's always having a go at me for not liking this, and now our positions are reversed.
I don't know, because if you're going to do What If the Valeyard had won, you could have continued a bit more on from Trial of a Time Lord in a way. You could have tried to have like the Inquisitor involved or something, or done a bit something like, Gallifrey Series 4 where they went to the alternative Gallifreys and Colin Baker was playing that burner Doctor, that evil Doctor. Or
you just do Time of the Rani with the Valeyard.
Yes. Yeah. And I wasn't really bothered about whoever Mel was talking to, all these people on this planet and stuff.
No, the
and then
idea
stuff
was
turned out
you
not
had
to be
this
real,
fabulous
and she
place
was in them.
called Chronopolis, which I'm sure we all had a different sort of vision in our mind of what it was. Where the Valiar's cherry-picked, he's wiped out all these races, and he's cherry-picked the last survivor of each of these sort of genocides that he's done. Huge, ambitious ideas.
Do you know what that looked like in my mind, though? Because they were all quite uncharismatic. It just looked like the slaves in Destiny of the Daleks, where they've just all completely, like, just got nothing to say.
They were played as lacklusterly as that, wasn't they? I imagined it as this sort of block of Swiss cheese hanging in space. I don't know why. That's what I was seeing Chronopolis as.
Oh, I
They were going in and out of all the holes.
Like Disneyland. Like the castle. I don't know.
Well, it just goes to show we all see different things when we listen to audios. Do you know, earlier on, Dylan, when we started Finish Big, Mark and I used to do this thing where we would draw a character that obviously was,
I remember.
and the differences in the pictures, like we are seeing completely different things.
The worst thing about those picture ones was I only ever listen to the audio, because I always have it on, so I'm always just hearing you guys talk about the pictures and never seeing
You just
them.
have to sort of imagine a picture done by a little girl who, and they were all a bit like that, you know. What did you think about the fabulous idea of the Valiard wiping out the Doctor in Legopolis? I thought that was wonderful. So then, all of a sudden, technically, he should no longer exist.
It's very Dark Dimension. That's what happens there, isn't it?
Oh, is
He's
it?
sort of, well, no, he's not wiped out. He's saved, actually. But yeah, I liked it. I think kudos to Gary Russell. This is the sort of thing that I think he has quite a lot of fun with in like canon tampering, but not in the way that Big Finish do it now, where they've got to cram River Song into episode 4 of the Invasion or whatever. It's like, no, let's have some real fun and really pull apart at the strings of the scarf and let it all unravel, and you end up with this mess of continuity. So, you know, give me a dead Doctor, give me like a more like angry Mel who's a bit of a hero. Like I'm there for it all.
How do you think Bonnie played that then? The sort of embittered Mel.
She was fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean,
so too.
she's always been brilliant, but it just goes to prove like the range she has as an actress, and she was given a certain type of character, which I love in the 80s, but she could have done so much more. Like, she's David Tennant at the end in Dragonfire going, I could have done so much more. Like, given her, if she'd had Ace's development arc, I still think she could have played that seriously, having now heard her do something like this.
That's very on brand for a conversation I had another podcast recently. I didn't think I needed Bonnie Langford to say the line, "You wouldn't like me when I'm angry," but when she did, I was a little bit hard. Oh, I thought she was wonderful. I think Bonnie can play anything on audio. I don't think anything's above her. I think she's a very good actress.
I think she is one of the best, if not possibly Louise Jameson, of the living companions from the classic series. I think she's the second best actress, as in who is like an all-rounder good actress. I think her and Louise Jameson are two people, and there's a reason why Bonnie Langford's back, is because she is an all-rounder when it comes to being a performer, and she's still got the acting chops to do it on TV continuously today in a way that perhaps other Doctor Who companions who are still about haven't.
It certainly doesn't hurt the marketing that she's also a national treasure as well.
Well, exactly. Sir Bonnie Langford.
And we almost hear her introduction in this bit with when the Doctor meets her in Brighton, which I think is from the Gary Russell book Business Unusual.
It certainly is, yes. Where she meets him outside the bank.
Yeah,
in
that
Brighton.
in the book, yeah.
He was getting so excited because that's where he works. They were describing the lanes in Brighton.
The Valiard has a companion in this. What was her name again?
Her name is Ellie Martin from the Sarah Jane Smith audios. Did you recognise her, Dylan?
I didn't actually. What a bad fan of spin-off media I am.
You have covered that in Too Hot for TV as well.
I know, but it was dreadful.
I think she's brilliant. She sounds a bit like Claire Buckfield in The One Doctor. She's
Sally Ann.
Yeah, she's like Sally Ann.
And a little bit like Flip as well. Is that sort of
it's that kind of
urging
character. But that's great to give to the Valiard as a companion.
Here's a quick question then, before my actual questions at the end of the episode. Do you know, Dylan, who was originally supposed to be in that role of Ellie Martin in the Sarah Jane audios?
It was supposed to be Sam Jones, wasn't
Ah, you do. Well, imagine the Valiard and Sam Jones together, the ultimate evil pairing.
it? Justice for Sam Jones. Turns out that Elizabeth Sladen was a bitch.
I do have
You can cut that bit if you want.
no, she's terrible. Except when she's in the hands of writers like Paul Mars, then she's pretty good. I've got a small bit of trivia about Hey Jests and Scars, if you'd like to hear it. There were two main problems. The first was that Gary intended the Valiard to use ruthless methods to achieve good ends, but this is exactly what the Doctor is doing in the Fourth Fathom 5, of course. So I encouraged Gary to go much more for the Valiard being completely evil, with no real good intentions. But then the problem became how to make him not like the Master. I think the end product works well with the Valiard abandoning the laws of time and ultimately leading to his own downfall. Also, as well, I learned in the book that originally there were 5 stories in the Unbound series, and He Jests and Scars wasn't considered. But Gary Russell, who's obviously one of the big cheeses at Big Finish, had been tooting that he wanted to write for the Valiard for ages and ages, and assumed when this whole series was mooted that one of the stories was going to be his Valiard story, and then he saw the list and was apoplectic, and it's like, what?
Do you know what I love about Gary Russell when he was running Big Finish? And they had a limited amount of releases, obviously, but he wasn't just commissioning himself and going, I can write this, I can write this. He was all about what was the best mix. And so when he does write something, it's a bit of an event. Whether you love, like, or loathe his writing, I'm always excited to see what Gary Russell's going to do with a book, a script, whatever. So because I think he does a certain type of Doctor Who that usually gels for me.
I'll tell you what he said on my hamster commentary that he did was that he would deliberately commission things that he wouldn't want to listen to because he knows that he shouldn't just be catering for what he likes. I do wonder if creatives at Big Finish nowadays should listen to that sort of advice, but let's not go there.
He's got Barry Lett's sense to some extent.
Does he Barry Letts?
But I wonder if this hadn't been an Unbound, I wonder if they could have done something with the Valiard when they do the Villains trilogy, Omega Master, Davros. They could have done a Valiard one there, and you could have gone a different route and done something a bit more...
Well, that was supposed to be Toymaker originally, wasn't it?
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, so it was... I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been Omega, but Gary Russell would only do the Toymaker if he could get Michael Gough to play the part. And Michael Gough was A, in Hollywood, and B, about 4,000 years old by that point.
What I loved about this story was the sort of insane conclusions that the Valiard came to try and save his arse. So he figures that if he wipes out Legopolis in its entirety, then the Doctor will never want to go there, so he can never kill himself on the way to Legopolis.
I find it a bit meta. Like it feels like a bit of a comment on fan fiction for me. Like where like Gary Russell's gone, look at all the stupid ideas Doctor Who fans have. Let's channel them through the Valiard. I'm probably wrong, but that's what it feels like.
Wow, no, I mean... Oh, no, it was you. I was about to say I know somebody who wants to go back and rewrite all the original stories. It's you!
I don't want to go back and rewrite them all. I just want to reboot Doctor Who from the ground up and have a new First Doctor and maybe borrow the odd good story here and there.
Oh, sorry. It's not the first time I've taken your name in vain this week. I'll do it.
I think in the books there were lots of different explanations for what happened after Trial of a Time Lord with the Valiard, wasn't there? There were so many different...
Gary Russell's responsible for about 6
Yeah,
of them,
and he does a lot of
the
that, doesn't
Valiard
he?
turn up in Matrix, the Past Doctor Adventure?
Yes, isn't he Jack the Ripper?
Yeah, he's Jack the Ripper in that, isn't he?
When I've got through the 4,000 episodes of Doctor Who Too Hot for TV I've got planned, we should do a Valiard special where we pull together all these different missing adventures, new adventures, audios, and try and just figure out exactly what they do after trial. And we can throw in a load of the Mel origin stories as well for good measure.
Yeah,
the evil multiverse of the Valiard.
Yeah.
We'll
Hang on, that sounds like an entire podcast, actually.
It does.
It's probably about 15 episodes.
What is worth remembering, though, is because we barely touched on the different Valiard mentions and uses. Like, remember the War Valiard that came along?
It's in Time War, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that idea in that season that everyone fucking laments, Trial of a Time Lord, it has stimulated the imagination of all of these creatives for years and years.
Trial of the Valiard, that's good.
Yeah, we heard that the other day, didn't we?
Trial of a Time Lord's one of my favourite series of Doctor Who, I think. Like, unashamedly so. I think it's always been brilliant.
Should you wish to hear Dylan's further thoughts, there's a rather wonderful commentary on Mind Warp out there. Go and seek it out. Hamster a blunt penknife. But I think it does show that Gary Russell had his finger on the pulse as well, of that people did want more of this character and they wanted more of Michael Jason. And the last bit of trivia is they basically said if they weren't going to get Jason, they weren't going to do it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I don't think you cast... I mean, you would now, but I don't think in the early noughties you would recast the Valiard with somebody else.
And I think back then in 2003, if you showed me all of these releases in this series, the one that would stick out to me that I'd say, oh, I want to hear that one, would be The Return of the Valiard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what, have you heard all the pitches?
Well, no, if there was just a list of them, this is the one I would pick out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, I want to hear that one.
I'm 90% sure that was the one I would have been most excited about when they announced it, because the others are like much of a muchness. It's like, oh, David Warner, some old guy's the Doctor. Oh, what's his face? Jeffrey Belden, some old guy as the Doctor. This is the first one that's doing something really different with the What If.
So why didn't we like it back in the day then, you and me?
We had terrible taste, but we've since grown into ourselves.
I don't think I liked fan wank very much back then. I think that was the problem, because I didn't really like the stuff that Craig Hinton was doing, or David A. McKinsey, and a lot of Gary Russell's books as well. I was really hard on all of it. So I think I wanted Doctor Who to be more sort of innovative and experimental, and what I was getting was just a load of regurgitated old Doctor Who stories.
Yeah, I think I was probably in my action era, so like my Resurrection of the Daleks era, where it's like, okay, I like Doctor Who to be action-packed, gritty, dark sci-fi, in inverted commas.
Yeah.
You got some
and loads of Daleks coming all over the place, yeah.
You got some other continuity here, because you got Van Cell from Neverland.
Oh, yeah, Anthony Keach.
And Sirens of Time.
Mm-hmm. What happened to him? He just sort of vanished, didn't he?
Doesn't he get killed in Neverland? Because
He
he
does.
turns.
Yes,
He
we've
gets,
heard that. I'm assuming Anthony Keach is not hot, though, because unlike Narvin... Have you heard about Narvin?
Oh, I've seen the Narvin fangirl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, they love him, don't they?
I've got a Narvin badge. In fact, I might even have it.
Are you a Narvinite? Official
Giving it-
Narvinite. Oh,
What can I say?
My love for
Yeah,
you could not grow anymore.
I'm not a Keach freak. What can I say, though? You know?
Oh, you should get him on 2 Off TV.
A Van Cell fan cell. So I interviewed Anthony Keach many years ago because he wrote a BBV and appeared in quite a few of them. And actually, I was doing a Too Hot for TV about the one he wrote quite recently. He's an interesting guy. I just imagine he was in a bunch of BBVs, a bunch of big finishes, and then his career took him elsewhere, I imagine. But wherever he is, I hope he's being successful and happy.
Oh no, we're heading down our own distant scar spiral. We'll all be trapped in amber soon.
yeah.
I've got to say though, there is one thing I will half criticise about this, and that is the dialogue is pretty ripe in this story. Like, it is full on Pip and Jane, this dialogue.
But I wonder whether that's a choice, like coming out of Trial of a Time Lord and Pip and Jane writing the last 6 episodes. I wonder whether Gary Russell, who, if you hear his dialogue in other stories, it does not sound like this. I wonder whether he's made the choice to write it that way.
We've got
Because
The Greyest coming up soon, so I'll let you know, alright?
Because if you've watched Trial of a Time Lord and you want to write for the Valiard, there's plenty there.
Oh, of course, he's just mimicking the style.
It's mimicking
Yeah,
that,
okay.
isn't it?
I wrote down a line here. Michael Jason can get away with saying, "I can create and destroy anything. I am using time as a tool rather than a law."
That's a good impression.
Oh wait, he's not with us anymore. Big Finish, give me a ring, alright?
Right, should we go on to the next one?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
we
let's do it.
probably should, yes.
Okay, so completely different. So, Deadline.
Was released in September 2003, and this stars Derek Jacobi and Jacqueline King, and was written by Rob Shearman.
Straight, Dylan.
Well, I think we now know what it was that really upset Steph Coburn in the last few years. I think he heard this and went, Doctor Who fandom can't treat me like this. I'm going in. I remember hearing this at the time and thinking the reverse. Oh my god, this is brilliant, gritty adult drama. This time round, I really, really, really hated it.
Wow. Wow, this was my favourite of the year.
I would go as far as to say I think this is my least favourite Big Finish.
Oh my god!
Why?
I hope Rob's not listening. I've got to know Rob a bit over the last year, and he's a lovely, lovely human. But he's also quite self-deprecating about his work.
Not this one, though. I've got a quote coming up.
Okay. I just don't think this is a... I don't think this should be part of this range. I don't think it's what if enough.
What if Doctor Who was never made?
Yeah, but it's so meta and weird. It's just like... It would have been sold for me if it turns out he actually was the Doctor at the end. Then for me, it would have been a good enough story. But I don't like the characters. I don't like a lot of the performances. Derek Jacobi is okay. He's about the only saving grace in it for me. I understand what he's doing, sort of deconstructing Doctor Who, deconstructing his career, deconstructing Anthony Coburn's life. But for me, it just doesn't hold together. I don't have anything positive to say.
It does feel a bit like this was like a script that Rob, like a different, not a Doctor Who script, like some kind of drama script, something that Rob Schumann wanted to make.
He
for
actually says
Radio
this.
4, and then he sort of because you have a few mentions of Doctor Who at the beginning, and then there's quite a long gap of just this sort of family drama for a long time. And I agree. Yeah, it doesn't really fit into this Unbound. It doesn't have a what if on the website actually on the blurb.
If this was a Radio 4 play, I think I would like it a lot more. But I don't think it should be part of this range.
Derek Jacobi, amazing to have him. A bit like we were saying like last time with David Warner, someone working with Big Finish that's got that's a bit more sort of high profile. It felt really special at the time that Derek Jacobi was doing this. I mean, we're drowning in War Doctor box sets now. It's not special anymore that Derek Jacobi is around. Please stop, is what we're saying now. But back then, it did feel like a prestige casting.
Do you know? Maybe Joe's got this as trivia, but do you know how it ended up being Derek Jacobi?
Go on.
Big Finish got in touch with Ian McKellen's agent and said, "Will Ian McKellen do this?" And they were like, "No, Ian will be far too busy." And they were just like, "No, please, could you ask him?" And they went, "Okay, we'll ask him. And Ian McKellen went, "Do you know what? This is a good script. I've got time in my schedule in like 2 months' time. Yes, I'll happily do it." And for about a week, it was Ian McKellen. And then Ian McKellen's schedule changes. They call Big Finish back up and go, "Unfortunately, as we said, Ian is far too busy. So we're going to have to let go." But I don't suppose, by any chance, we also represent Derek Jacobi. Have you ever heard of him? Would you want us to pass it on to him? And they went, yes. And then here we are now.
They went,
Derek Jacobi.
Fuck Ian McKellen, yes please.
I don't know if he's the right fit for the part.
You're
though.
mad.
Because
You're
I
both
think
mad.
I think there should
He's
be
too
more
young.
like-
He's too young.
I mean, I try to see it as you want that William Hartnell grit a little bit more. I know he's not trying to play that part, but I don't know, he doesn't have the gravitas, I think, for some of these scenes.
Derek Jacobi does not have the gravitas for these
No,
scenes.
I agree.
And as for
I
you,
agree.
whinging that they're all too old in the first half and now they're all too fucking young in the second half.
Do you know what? If Jeffrey Baildon was playing this, I'd believe it a lot more because he's in his late 70s. He feels like he could be in a home. This feels like a 60-year-old man in a home, and it's like, I know you do get that, but only with severe sort of health problems or mental health problems or dementia or whatever. So this just feels like somebody that's far too young to be in a home, being in a home, and so it doesn't work for me.
You know what I loved about this, right? Is I loved all the deconstructing of the Doctor Who myth. I loved all the scathing criticism of Doctor Who fandom that's in there, where this representative of the Juliet Bravo fan club turning up, and it's the only thing he wants to talk about in this poor man's career.
Well, I don't know if I read this or have made this up, but the guy playing that he's supposed to be Benjamin Cook, right? He's
Well, he
supposed to be...
sounds like Rob Sheeran. It's Rob Sheeran playing that role.
No, it sounds like Benjamin. That's what Benjamin Cook sounds like. I thought it was based on Benjamin Cook tracking down Christopher Bailey to do a Doctor Who magazine.
I think you're right. Yes, I think it was based on that interview.
Yeah,
I mean that
it
is the
Benjamin
most
Cook.
scathing commentary on Doctor Who fandom. That scene where he has a go at the fan and says, "You basically wasted your fucking life obsessing about this stuff." I really loved how uncomfortable this made me feel.
Oh yeah, it was uncomfortable as fuck.
It's so discomforting, this, and how Derek Jacobi's character, Martin, is so unlikable from the beginning to the end. I was like, there is nothing redeeming at all about this man, even when he's trying to reach out to the kid at the end.
But I'm going to cosplay that wardrobe at the next convention I go to.
No, I was going to say something deeply inappropriate there. I thought when Jacobi had to play Hartnell as well, I thought the line readings were absolutely perfect. The inflections,
it was brilliant.
It was like hearing it. I thought a lot of the lines were funny. All this, I don't love you, sod off. Does that mean she's called Susan Who? It was very witty throughout.
I liked all that stuff. I just don't like it as a bit of Doctor Who in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's not really a bit of Doctor Who, is it? It's just a story of the man who wrote Doctor Who.
Well, I was going to ask, would you rather have this instead of Adventure in Space and Time? They could have made this as the special for the 50th. With David Bradley, imagine.
Not.
This on
TV. They should have made it for the 60th with the whole fucking Coburn thing going on.
Oh my god.
Do you know, the two bits that were just so toe-kerningly uncomfortable was the bit where Martin comes on to Jacqueline King, and it appears that she's flirting with him, and then she just loses her shit at him, going, "You
my arsehole went into my arsehole at that point. It was
you
just
stink of piss! How dare you think I fancy you?" That bit, I was like, "Oh my god, how are we coming back from this?"
I wish she'd said that to the 10th Doctor.
Quite. But even worse was the bit where, and genuinely, I think it's the most uncomfortable thing I've heard so far on this project, is the son breaking down and telling his dad that he hates him and that he never loved him. And I was like, my God, it's like me going to therapy right now listening to this.
Look, don't get me wrong. I don't think this is a bad script or a bad bit of audio drama. I just don't think it's got a place here. Like, there are some great moments, and you've just listed a bunch of them, but it just doesn't work for me on any level.
I think it fits more with that. This is going back. In 1993, they did that "Whatever Happened to Susan Foreman" radio thing. Yeah. It sort of fits with that a little bit, with the Jane Asher Susan and stuff.
It also fits with the little reenactments they did in "I Was a Doctor Who Monster," if you've ever seen that.
Oh my god, yes.
Talking of Susan, didn't you love the bit where he dumps Susan for his grandson and goes, "Oh, you'll start off as the unearthly child, but you'll soon just be another screaming girl." On the most uncomfortable thing of all, "Get into the wardrobe and I can give you everything." To the little boy. I was like, what are we doing? Well, look, I do have a little bit of trivia from Rob Schumann, if you'd like to hear it.
He's not here now, is he?
Yes, he is. He wants to have a word with you. What Rob says is, I probably shouldn't say it, though, hey, I've been honest about my stories I don't like, but I'm extremely proud of Deadline. I think it's the best thing I've ever written for Big Finish, the most concise, the most truthful. Of my scripts, I think it's Big Finish's best production. It all just works. The performances, the post-production are spot on, and it's very funny and moving. And he is very, very self-deprecating about Chimes of Midnight, Jubilee, and just, the superb.
I'm sorry, Rob. I don't agree, but I'll take the Maltese Penguin any day.
Oh, no, that was so boring. What is wrong with you?
I haven't heard it in years. I'm just being facetious.
But he is asked, actually, how far is Martin Bannister based on Robert Shearman? And his answer's great. He says, Martin Bannister isn't me, but he's what I could become. I don't want to turn this into a sob story, which is, after all, exactly the trap Martin falls into. But writing is a very frustrating job. I was lucky when I started in my early 20s. I was seized as the new big thing. I won awards left, right and centre. Some of my plays were even studied at universities. For a few years, critics genuinely did talk about me as an important new talent. I was a bit too young to be given such attention, very probably, and I got way above myself. My writing certainly did. Some of my plays brim with a self-satisfied self-confidence that you could cut with a knife. I didn't realise that a lot of the attention was because of my youth. Although the plays got better, I think the performing flea aspect of my career fell away. I've never not been in work as a writer, but by the late 90s I was hanging on by my fingernails. I did feel a bit forgotten. It's the nature of the business. Writing, acting, it's all built upon spells of success followed by agonisingly frustrating dry periods. Martin is a writer who never quite got over his first dry period. Needing to make money, he turns his attention to TV and to projects that don't feel are worthy of his talents. Perhaps it's not surprising that the very first bit of Deadline that I wrote was a long speech where Martin relates the failure of his career as he's interviewed for Juliet Bravo magazine. So there's a little bit of...
Well, I felt like the character was that William Hartnell interview that exists, and a bit of sort of Carol
That
Ann...
didn't exist then, though.
Well,
That didn't exist.
well, and a bit of Carol Ann Ford now. It could just be her being interviewed now.
Imagine us in years to come. I'm a legitimate podcaster.
I can feel
podcast catchers.
I feel like there are a few of TV Doctor Who actors that can relate to this story.
Yeah.
John Levine,
And I didn't realise
Eric Saywood.
I didn't realise Juliet Bravo was a real thing. Only recently. I thought it was just made up for the. I thought it was just a stupid name.
Mundane.
I thought it was a stupid name just to replace for Doctor Who. But I had no idea. And
Like
when it was like
Professor X.
it's a
Yeah.
police series but with a woman, I thought it was a
Well,
joke.
I think the joke is that Anthony Coburn has written some Juliet Bravos. That's the joke.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's really interesting that you feel like this doesn't belong here, because I think this is the series for these sort of experiments. So I thought this was the ultimate
No,
example
it's
of it.
it's too far for me. It's too far. As I said, the only thing it had to do differently is basically at the end it turns out that he was the Doctor who sort of lost his memory and done this weird thing. As it is now, it does not work for me at all. And a lot of the performances I'm a bit funny with as well.
I can understand why it lured Jacoby in, why he wanted to do it though, because it's a challenging script, I think, to play somebody this much of a bastard for how, you know.
I was just saying, it's a weird celebration for 40 years of Doctor Who.
But again, when Doctor Who's as dead as it could possibly be.
Yeah, this is
Yeah. Like, this would never in a million
No.
years be made now. They just wouldn't be able to do it.
Somebody would get sued.
Well, let's talk about the next one then.
Do we have to?
Right. Exile was released in October 2003, and this stars Arabella Weir as the Doctor, also featuring Nicholas Briggs, who also wrote this story.
And directed.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
And this is what if the Doctor had sort of escaped Justice of the Time Lords at the end of the War Games.
And worked for Sainsbury's.
So it's another sort of alternative Third Doctor, if you're looking at it that way.
It is weird that nobody wants to do any alternative Doctors apart from the third
It's
one.
strange, isn't it?
Why?
Because no one likes Pertwee. That's what... This was the 90s, you remember, where everyone had turned on him.
I mean, I didn't find any of it funny. I'll just start with that. I didn't find this amusing in any way.
I mean, there was a few lines that made me laugh, and there was a few performances. I thought David Tennant was having great fun with his
I was
parts.
going to say, anything... David Tennant has never made me laugh. Anything he's ever done, even as the 10th Doctor, I've never found David Tennant
bitch.
amusing at all.
You heartless bitch.
Do you know who I thought was the funniest person in this? And it should have been Arabella Weir, because she's a brilliant comedian. She's so funny. She ain't in this, but she's very... Nicholas Briggs! I thought he was playing...
Oh, yeah.
He was playing his parts very amusingly.
As the previous Doctor, as being a John Pertwee, yeah, it was
He
brilliant.
turned up in the bottle of vodka. I thought that was highly
Yeah.
amusing.
I think comedy dates really, really badly. And
Especially comedy in the 90s.
this is a type of comedy that had already dated when this came out. So it's on a back foot. And so when this came out, I thought this was dreadful. I thought this was the worst thing Big Finish had ever done. I don't mind it now, because it's so... I'm not going to sit here and go, this is the best, that this is amazing, oh my god, we need to rediscover it.
Our
but it's so of a
podcasting
time.
careers together would end here if you did.
But it's so of its time that, like, I would listen to this again. I will never listen to Deadline again. Like, I want to do... Like, I'll do a whole podcast on Exile, because it's...
Never felt you're madder than you are right now.
I can't believe this. No. Oh,
I mean, at least Deadline had some smart things to say.
Look, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's inoffensive. The comedy has aged badly. As I mentioned before, I think on the last one we did, I watched 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, a couple of episodes, and a few episodes of Men Behaving Badly recently, and they didn't get a laugh out of me, and both of those things would have cracked me up at one point in my life. So it didn't bother me that the jokes didn't land. I really like Arabella Weir. She doesn't quite get to flex her Doctor chops, but she does enough to convince me that she could have played the Doctor. I love David Tennant as the Time Lord.
Well, he's doing that sort of awfully upper crust voice,
No,
isn't
it's
he?
awful. It's terrible.
I say, it's the most revolting thing I've ever eaten.
And when my first ever job was working in QuickSave for £2.42 an hour, and we used to go out. I mainly work weekends, and we work 12-hour shifts, and we'd go and get shit-faced. We'd have 3 hours sleep, and then we'd go back into work and throw up in the stockroom. So there's a weird nostalgic feeling of being an alcoholic in a QuickSave here.
I work in a Sainsbury's right now, alright?
Yeah, but you're not a big drinker.
No, I didn't relate to much of this at all. I certainly don't do the trolleys. I mean, this should be built for me, right? And he does actually say in the Bible here about how Sainsbury's is a very comforting place for him, because it's where his family all got his food when he was younger. And so going to Sainsbury's was this really sort of like homely place, which is why
Friday Big Shop.
the Doctor going to Sainsbury's somehow for him has like a nostalgic pull.
No,
is it because you don't like meeting me from work?
Just on the humour, it's just this sort of like it's
no,
very
it's not
dated.
funny. There's no joke that lands in this.
It's sort of it feels like this is like Nick Briggs' humour in the 80s. Like right at the beginning, the moment that David Tennant goes, "Oh shit!" at the beginning, I was like, "Oh my god, this is not funny. This is just going to be so
did
cringe."
think that was funny.
This is not funny at all. I think it's a shame because Arabella Weir, she is made to play this sort of awful drunk Doctor for most of the time, but there are moments where you could see that she could be a really good Doctor, and it's a shame to do a female Doctor. They could have actually done a bit more of gone a serious route, a bit sort of David Warner style with one of those kind of stories instead, just to showcase, because I think she's a good actress, but she's just given the worst dialogue.
Do you think they're too scared, even in 2003, to do a female Doctor in a full Fathom 5 or in a He Jests at Scars even? Or
so they've got to bloke her up.
They've got to cover it up with a sort of a comedy, silly.
Yeah, they've got to make her the most non-Doctor in order to sort of sell it.
I think back then, I don't think anyone would be serious at all about a female Doctor. It was just something that would never happen.
I was 100% against the idea of a female Doctor in 2003 because I was an idiot.
I never have been until I heard this when I was younger, and then I was like, well, if it's going to be like that, I don't want to. But like, the thing I don't get about this release is, what is it about? What is the point of it? I got to the end and I was like, okay, that was 50 minutes of terrible vomit jokes. What was the point of listening to that? What was the what if there? What was the character journey? What was everybody learning? Where was the danger? Because there was this weird climax set in a Sainsbury's car park where something to do with Princess Anne and the trolleys and a load of aliens trying to blow up Princess Anne that actually turned out to be a load of nothing. And then Doctor Who's two companions, Cheese... and he's called Cheese because when he drinks 6 pints, suddenly all of his pints smell like cheese. That's the level of characterisation we're dealing with here.
I don't understand how that happens, though. Like, if we want to talk plot points,
It's
no
a
one's
joke,
ever drank
all right?
6...
It's a joke.
Okay, fine. It was still better than the Star Beast.
Do you know what?
I can put my hand up and say I'd rather watch the Star Beast.
I don't think like we've talked about this, you and me, quite a bit about areas the Doctor Who can go in and areas it can't. Later in the run, the writer of I can't remember his name. He's a sitcom writer.
Well, not Dark Husband.
He writes a Dark Husband. What's his name?
I don't know.
That's a blokey. It's the Seventh Doctor, Ace and Hex. And Hex gets drunk and starts chasing women throughout the entire story, and it's just agonising to listen to. It's unendurable. And I just don't think Doctor Who can do this and still feel like Doctor Who.
I feel like there was something in the story. Once you get rid of all the silliness and all the drinking and the belching and all of that stuff, isn't there something, maybe I'm just trying to pick something out of this, where she's sort of
picking
avoiding...
something out of the vomit,
she's
you mean?
Trying to, like, avoid her...
Yeah, she's
destiny.
hiding.
Yeah, she's sort of covering it up, just coming down to earth and being drinking all the time. But there is something there that, and she's not sort of saving the universe or doing all that stuff. But she's sort of the heroism,
who she should be. I think
Yeah,
they
there
say
is
that in the
something.
scene.
I don't think it's done particularly well, but it's just that's what the point is. I think.
I think the problem is it comes in a series where so in this the Doctor avoids regenerating, regenerates anyway, ends up on Earth, doesn't end up with UNIT. We've already seen what happens if the Doctor doesn't end up with UNIT, and it's certainly not in the same universe as the David Warner one. So it probably suffers too much again from too many Third Doctors. And actually, like, I would almost buy it if it was like the Seventh Doctor, maybe, or the Eighth Doctor, who was like, I got gunned down, I went too far, I was the master manipulator as the Seventh Doctor, I'm just going to hide out on Earth and become a bit of a boozy supermarket attendant. I kind of buy it if it's that Doctor versus the one we've already had 3 versions of in the last 6 releases.
Have you read Transit recently? McCoy does end up under the table after drinking too much in that one.
I've not read Transit recently, or ever, but...
Wasn't like the stuff, the car park, the rubbish under the car park and everything, wasn't that like a thinly veiled, like that Green Death sort of reference? That
that was a big thing in like the late 90s and early noughties. There was like...
They were building supermarkets on landfills, weren't they?
Oh.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing where there was a World Cup in China or somewhere like that, and they built this brand new stadium, amazing stadium, and if they turned the underpitch heaters on, the whole thing would have blown up because it was built on a rubbish dump.
Ooh.
So that's Nick Briggs being edgy and political.
Wow, yeah.
Can I give you a small bit of trivia? It says that Nick actually talking about his own attempts to write comedy. It actually makes me feel really bad about things I've said about him in the past, but I'll read it out anyway. At one point, Nicholas Briggs was worried that Exile wasn't making him laugh. I phoned Rob Shearman, he explained, and asked him if his comedy made him laugh while he was writing it. He said no. I don't know if he was telling me the truth, but it made me feel better. No, he was just writing this script. I gave myself this challenge because I see no point in just standing still and always doing the same thing. It was scary, but I think I've begun to learn something new with this experience, and I'm particularly grateful for Rob for all of his support and advice. John Ainsworth was also brilliant because he managed to sound as if he was genuinely laughing when I told him what I was writing. Earlier on, I'd made the mistake of telling another friend some of my hilarious, he puts it in inverted commas, ideas. So even he's a bit touch and go as to whether they're funny. He just listened with a stony face, not even realising I was trying to be funny. That stopped me writing for a full 2 weeks. I haven't had writer's block like that for years. It was very upsetting, but John got me going again with his laughter. It's times like that which make you realise how fragile your ability to work can be. Sounds a bit pretentious, I know, but you have to write with your heart with as much honesty as you can muster. When some reaction to your work makes you scared or unhappy with yourself, oh dear, it's really difficult to regain that heart and honesty. But a useful thing for your life in general if you can get it back. I always feel a massive sense of achievement when my writing is progressing well. When it doesn't go well, the sense of failure and disappointment is almost totally crushing. And this is the clincher, you ready? Perhaps I should go and work for Sainsbury's. You cheeky bastard.
I don't know. I don't find him funny. I mean, you have just to listen to the Big Finish podcast. He's not funny.
But props.
I find him quite funny as a human, actually.
Props to him for trying. That's what I'll say. He doesn't pull it off.
No, it doesn't
But
work.
what he says there about trying new things, actually, when I look at his work, until maybe we get to the Fourth Doctor line, he is always trying new things. Half the time, I don't think he manages it, but he's trying.
I think he's trying, and I think this is a bold attempt to do something different. It doesn't completely land, but I'm there for it.
Go on. You're dying to say more things.
No.
Do you just not like this sort of humour?
I just don't. I don't like. No, it's just not my humour.
I do believe this is considered to be potentially, hello Luke Malloy, the nadir of Big Finish.
I don't think it went down.
No.
At the time.
I think sort of in general circles, not in our
Yeah,
circles.
it went down badly at the time. Certainly, it was like a shit in a lift. It was just.
But you know, like, look at where we are in Finish Big. We just had Dalek Empire. We just had Creatures from Beauty. He's on a bit of a high at the moment. So this must have been a bit of a knock.
But also, again, you're allowed to fail in this range.
Was the reference at the end to the Scarecrows a reference to the Second Doctor TV comic strips?
I think it probably was, yeah.
Because that was set after the Wargate or something around that time. Yeah, there's a bit of a
I don't know
reference
why
there.
we haven't had an adaptation of that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
John Gillian, the Scarecrows.
Yeah.
Die, you hideous monster, die.
You know how we said how great it was to have more David Warner after Sympathy from the Devil? I think of all the other actors in this series, I would have liked to have seen Arabella Weir do more, but played for
100%.
real.
Mm,
Because I think she's, if you go and
she
watch
could
her
do
on
it.
Two Doors Down and things like that, she's a brilliant actress.
Mm.
I completely agree. Give her it can be the most run of the mill Doctor Who story. I just want to see what she does with it.
So I'm totally surprised because I found the last one sort of all right and the other two amazing. Okay, how would you guys summarize Unbound then as a season? Dylan.
Dangerous, bumpy, flawed, exciting. It's a range that's remit allows it to fail spectacularly and also like reach amazing heights. Like it's some of the best and the worst of Big Finish, and it's allowed to be both of those things.
I think it's very brave to try these different things. I'm glad they were made.
I think when bold and experimental nowadays is pulling characters out of a bag like Scrabble letters and putting them together in a script and slapping a load of faces on the cover and selling that at 10.99, when that is being innovative now, this is incredible. Like this is really doing something different, unique, and for the most part, really intelligent. It poses interesting questions, and it simply but dramatically answers those questions. I think as a whole, this is a huge success.
And choosing interesting writers to do it. I know they can't recast the Doctor anymore, what have you, but I'd be interested in another series of Unbound, like they've done a little bit with the Colin Baker's The War Doctor, where they took the Doctors they have and just went, "What if with them?" But really pushed the boundaries and did something really exciting. Because I think there's more room for stuff like this, and it's a shame that we're too concerned with doing the fourth sequel to the War Games set in like season 6B.
I do wonder if they did Unbound now, if it would just lack any of the frisson that these releases have.
You've got to have the right writers. It has to be like get your John Dorneys and people like that and go, what is your real what if, and not just we're going to put Mel Bush and Jacqueline King and all these people in the same room and hope for the best.
What if they did something like where they got writers that hadn't written for Doctor Who before that are known for their Radio 4 plays or for their other things, and they could say,
Yeah.
so do Doctor Who how you would do Doctor Who for an hour, and this is what concept would you do, and do sort of Unbound the writers in a way, and get
That's a really good
that would be
idea.
good.
But like they have recently brought out, as we said in the first episode, they've recently brought out an Unbound one. And what did they do? Oh, we're going to rewrite the end of Genesis of the Daleks and then have evil Colin
Yeah.
Baker. Oh, that's so boring. It's so lackluster, isn't it?
I suppose what Mark's talking about is similar to the Telos novella things, where they did get people like Kim Newman in, who is known for his Dracula range and things like that, and going, it's not quite pushing the boat out in the same way, but it's going, here is a respected fantasy or sci-fi author, this is what they would do with a one-off Doctor Who story, but then stretch that remit to be like, you can change the canon, you can fuck with anything you want, just write us something amazing.
Yeah, but you would get your classic Doctors to play the Doctor in that,
Yeah.
just play it in a completely
Absolutely.
different way and do something different. Yeah.
So I guess now, and I've been wanting to say this ever since our first podcasting with him, it's time for some oral.
Audacity.
Okay, so just to test your literary knowledge a little bit, gentlemen. He jests at scars is a quote from which Shakespeare play?
Oh, I know nothing about Shakespeare,
But you know what you like.
No, I don't give a fuck about Shakespeare at all.
They do actually explicitly
I'm
state
sure
it
they
in
do.
the story.
Yeah.
Which
I
you
wanna
both
say-
heard in the last week.
Did he write one called Henry something? Henry VIII.
Oh, God.
Richard III.
Lucy McCall is spinning in a...
Macbeth.
Unfortunately not, no. It's Romeo and Juliet. There we go.
I've not seen. I saw the film when I was 12, and that's the last time I've encountered that.
This next question is more sort of geared towards Dylan, because we recently did a Scream of the Schalke commentary on his fabulous
Yes, we did.
podcast. What was announced first? Derek Jacobi's casting in Deadline for Big Finish, or Derek Jacobi's casting by the BBC for Scream of the Schalke?
I'm going to say Scream of the Schalke.
I'll say Deadline. I thought it was earlier.
Sort of eking it out so you can play the suspense music a bit longer. It was Deadline, but only just before, apparently. It says shortly before. It doesn't actually give a time scale, but it does say shortly before. And my final question for you fine gentlemen is, this is sort of like, go with the obvious answers for this, all right? Which three actresses were suggested and contacted to play the Doctor in Exile before Arabella Weir was decided upon?
Oh my god.
I know this.
Joanna Lumley must have been.
Yes, she is. And they literally said, we don't want to redo that, so we won't do it.
Miriam Margolyes.
Is the second one correct?
It's the third.
Come on, it's the most obvious comedy actress ever.
Oh, I was going to say Judi Dench.
Jennifer Saunders.
Oh, you got the wrong half.
Oh, Dawn.
Yes.
Dawn French.
Oh, that would have been, well, I thought she's very similar. I don't think, in terms of the
They're all
script,
far too obvious.
I think in terms of the script, I don't think much would have changed the production particularly.
No.
Honestly, I think it did all their careers some good by avoiding this script, if I'm honest. It didn't do Arabella Weir many favours, did it?
I think they should have got Miriam Margolyes to do He Jests Scars as the Balliard. That would have been the best. That would have been amazing.
Well, given Dylan's response to her portrayal as Beat the Meat, he may not.
There's nothing wrong with her portrayal as Beat the Meat. I just don't like the story.
Oh.
I worked with Miriam Margolyes once. She was a top lad.
Did she talk about her fanny a lot?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
She did. Okay, well, how about Mark's chronology moment?
How about there isn't one?
Why not?
Because this is all Unbound. I'm not putting Exile in any chronology or anything.
Oh.
Also, all of them are after the War Games, right?
Yeah.
After Trial, after War Games, not in Doctor Who.
there you
I
go.
can
Done.
say that none of this is legitimate.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I did ask. I'm going to quickly do Doctor Who in a second, but I did ask you both to rank the first three. Yeah, but this time I'm going to ask you both to rank the six.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
We'll start with Dylan.
Sympathy for the Devil. He Jests at Scars. Full Fathom 5. Old Mortality. Exile. Deadline.
Oh.
I've got a feeling yours is going to be quite different, but come on.
Okay, from best to worst, I'm going to say Old Mortality, Full Fathom 5, He Jests at Scars, Deadline, Sympathy for the Devil, and Exile.
And just to be contrary, my list would be Deadline, Old Mortality, Sympathy for the Devil, He Jests at Scars, Full Fathom 5, and poor Exile at the bottom as an intriguing but failed experiment. Okay, are you ready to hear some truly terrible opinions as espoused by Doc Ho?
It's Doc Ho.
Okay, so All Mortality, he was very impressed with. 10 out of 10, apparently. And he says, the last scene splits the drama two ways that really shows the possibilities truly are endless, and it remains one of the best scenes in Doctor Who ever. Let's see if he's as happy about Sympathy for the Devil. What if the Master had been exiled to Earth rather than the Doctor, he says. As an audio production, it's very good indeed, with some strong direction from Gary Russell and a beautiful score. I forgive this story its few sins. I'm sure the story is proud to hear it. Just to spend some time with a few more seconds of David Tennant's brilliantly rude Colonel Brimacombe. 7 out of 10. Oh, I'd give it a 9 now. I would give that a 9 now. Just goes to show you can change over time, doesn't it? Full Fathom 5 is right up my street, I said. I love David Bishop's uncomplicated and direct approach to storytelling. He cuts straight through all the pretense and gets straight to the drama. Well, melodrama. As a result, this story has real pace and atmosphere. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I
Fair.
still like that one. I think that
I still like it, but 8 is strong.
Okay. Oh no. He Jests at Scars. Good grief. The script is stupid, illogical, crammed full of tedious amounts of continuity in place of characterisation, and plotted with all the skill of a child, being given sticky back plot points and shoving them all over the wall willy-nilly. It's so absurdly awful you have to wonder why someone didn't take Russell to one side and say something. The premise is, what if Doctor Who was really, really shit? 0 out of 10.
I can't believe you're so harsh on it.
I'd give that an 8 now.
I cannot believe that.
I mean, it is astonishing how your opinion can change, right, over the years. Is it you just learn to chill out a bit?
But were you not even impressed with Michael Jason's performance or anything like that?
No, I said his direction is at its lowest ebb too.
My opinion's changed about a bunch of these since we've come back to them, so I think that's fine.
Yeah, the only distraction from the sweaty bollocks that is playing out in the script. Oh dear. How? What a twat he was. Okay, deadline. This is button pushing at its best, and practically every line is a gem. I can understand why I used to hate this story. Oh, so I did used to hate it. But now I love it, and oddly it's for exactly the same reasons. 10 out of 10. Maybe a 9 now. And then, oh, poor Exile. Arabella Ware is a fine comic and good actress, but you'd never be able to tell with a story this lousy to front. Oh, God. I was convinced we had seen Big Finish's Nadir. See, I was even using that word back then. In He Jests at Scars, but you have had it in the Unbound series. Two such irredeemable disasters so close together probably saw this series cancelled on the spot. One of the very few Big Finish stories I actually found it a struggle to write anything about. 0 out of 10. Oh, there's the other 0 out of 10 there.
Wow. Justice for Exile, that's what
I wouldn't want to go, but I have no inclination to go and listen to Exile again for any enjoyment.
I want the box set.
Yeah.
She does Sainsbury's, she does Quick Save, she does Waitrose, M&S, Aldi.
She does a whole episode doing a Nectar promotion, and then another. She goes to head office, and there's the master's there trying to take over the corporation.
He is Jay Sainsbury's. He arranged those letters.
Yes.
Oh dear. Well, how do we finish this off? Where we go next?
Oh, well, yeah, I will say where we're going next. So we're going back to the Doctor Who main range, where we will be listening to the Villains trilogy of Omega, Davros, and Master.
And
with
special guest star
Luke Malloy.
Luke Malloy's coming on for that one. Oh,
the biggest hoe of them all.
How does Dylan get Exile?
Sorry, yeah, I was
Dylan gets Exile and Luke Malloy gets Davros.
You've had these three, and then we're going on to
actually, Dylan, I do find that the sort of the more controversial ones are more interesting to talk about, though.
Absolutely, I'm all for talking about the ones that are a little bit different. And I hope when you reach the other two Unbound ones, you'll give me a call. And you better not have forgotten, I'm here for Graceless. Whenever you hit Graceless.
Yeah, we've got a little while for that yet. But
I was
15 years.
I was unconvinced by Graceless, and then he put on the first set, and it blew my socks off.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible series. As far as I remember, I could go back to it and hate it, but the first time I listened to it, that was when I was in my peak Big Finish era of just Big Finish is my main form of Doctor Who. I'm not loving what's going on television. Hit Graceless, and I was like, this is what I've always wanted.
Yeah.
So it can only go down in my estimations.
Don't worry, it has.
I've not heard the Wicked Sisters box set that they
me
did
neither.
Recently. But that was a bit of a more recent Big Finish with.
Yeah, I didn't want to go back because I was worried that I loved Graceless so much that anything that picked up on it was bound to be shit, right?
Oh, but come on now, we've got to do the run, right? Can't we knock on your door every time Amy and what's her name? Amy and
Zara. Well, Abby and Zara, Amy, Zara.
Yeah. Oh, it was Amy, wasn't it? And they had to change it to Abby because then Amy Pond came along.
There can't be two people in the Doctor Who universe called Amy for some reason. It's I get it if it's Ace Leela or Romana Viratnalunda, but Amy's quite a common. Yeah, it's a common. They should have changed her name to Adric just to be like, oh yeah, your companion's called that. Yeah. She's called Adric.
Don't worry, we're never going to have him in the TV series. You're all right.
That's what you think. Tales of the TARDIS 2. Adric will be there.
Well, Matthew Waterhouse was asking, wasn't he, on Twitter? Where was my story? Oh, Dylan, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us on this episode.
It's been an absolute hoot.
We always suspected you were a bit of a hoe, but it's nice to have it confirmed.
It's true. I am the second biggest hoe of them all.
Well, I suppose we better sign off.
well,
Will you
yeah.
join us?
Let's
I will.
and don't forget
To
finish.
Bye bye.